Hey people, this is my video rundown of things in entertainment news that interest me. Got a few pretty cool stories to talk about, so I'm just going to get right into it. The trailer for the remake of Total Recall has debuted, and I think it looks pretty awesome. As I said in my last video, I'm a pretty big fan of the original Total Recall film, and I think that story lends itself well to being remade with better special effects and a more serious tone to kind of reach a new audience and possibly tell the story even better than the original film did. Everything about this trailer to me suggests that it's the Total Recall remake that I want to see. The special effects and the visual style of the film look great. The action looks amazing. They focused on this one scene in the trailer. If you haven't seen it, watch it definitely. But it looked pretty cool. It features this swing around camera. I don't know the technical term of how to describe it, but kind of an improved version of what you see in The Matrix with the 360 rotation. And it's just really cool looking. The casting, I think, is good. Colin Farrell shouldn't have any problem carrying this movie. He looks to be doing a good job from the trailer, and I'm just very excited to see this movie. A lot of people are kind of in the camp of, oh, why is Hollywood making so many remakes? Can't they think of anything? But if there's a good story to be told, I don't see the problem with remaking it and telling it to a new audience. I mean, ideally, there would be new ideas coming out and people would think of new concepts, and people do that, but I don't think it's a problem when there are good remakes made, and this looks to be a good remake. I got a chance to watch the pilot for the new Ultimate Spider-Man animated series, and I'll be honest, while it's not as good as I hoped it would be back when it was originally announced that this series is going to come out, it's not as bad as I expected it to be from the promos and trailers that I saw and everything that I read. To start off on the positive, I think it's definitely the best looking Spider-Man cartoon that has ever come out. The characters' designs are all pretty good. I think Spider-Man himself is one of the best character designs on the show, which is kind of sensible because you're going to be looking at him all the time. Peter Parker, I still think could be a little bit better, but, maybe I just have to let it grow on me. Everybody else looks pretty decent. They do include flashes to the Avengers occasionally. Like, we've seen them in kind of hypothetical situations and thoughts and fantasies, but we haven't actually had any crossovers with them yet. But interestingly enough, the Captain America design for this show is based on the Avengers movie Captain America costume design. Well, it looks to be very similar to that. And if you watch further into the series, you see that it's sort of meant to be kind of connected to that Marvel Cinematic Universe, because not only do they have Agent Coulson, like we knew before, and the ultimate version of Nick Fury, but they flash to the scene in the first Iron Man film when he's testing out his flight equipment in his garage with the cars, and it's a more cartoony, goofy version of that, but it's definitely meant to be that scene. So it's kind of cool that they are making that connection to the movies, since we won't get to see Spider-Man crossing over with the movie, since the Spider-Man movies are owned by Sony. But it feels like a little bit of a missed opportunity to me, because this cartoon is just so silly. It's not that overly silly, but the tone of it is pretty childish in my opinion, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, since it's being presented as PG-13 films meant for mass audiences and meant to be taken seriously by adults, is a pretty mature presentation of Marvel stories. So I just think to have that being connected to this, I know it's not a firm connection, it's like a loose connection, and this is like a cartoony version of that world, but I feel like if they were going to connect it, I would like to see a stronger series with a more serious tone and better storytelling to feel like the Spider-Man of that universe. But honestly, it does have a few decent jokes. There was one point where Peter went to shake Dr. Kurt Connor's hand when he was meeting him, and Peter and I both say awkward at the same time because he realizes that Kurt Connors doesn't have a right hand to shake. So that was kind of funny. And there are other funny moments in the series, but they make a lot of attempts at humor that I don't think are really that funny, and the storytelling isn't that great so far. It's got an interesting premise of Peter being trained by S.H.I.E.L.D., which should be cool and interesting to watch, but for now, I would have to say that this is the weakest of the four major superhero cartoons out right now, the other three being Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, Young Justice, and Green Lantern. Speaking of Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, there have been a few new pictures released and one new clip released for the show's second season. And the clip was interesting because it featured a conversation between Tony Stark and Maria Hill talking about the Superhero Registration Act. And those of you who are Marvel fans know that that's kind of the lead-in to the Marvel event Civil War. So I'm curious to see if they're going to directly kind of try to adapt the Civil War storyline or just elements of that for this series, and just how that whole thing will play out in this season, or if they're maybe intending for another season. But I think whatever story they're laying out is supposed to be happening in this season, so it seems like they're laying the groundwork for a secret invasion, civil war, so it should be a pretty crazy season for this show. I read one comment by someone who seems to be kind of tired of the Civil War storyline because it was done in the comics not that long ago, and it's already been in the Marvel Ultimate Alliance game. People want to see it in a movie, like a live-action movie. I definitely do. And now it seems like it's going to be in this cartoon. But my argument is that it's being presented to a slightly different audience every time, so since it is such a great story, I think there's no problem with using it multiple times, but it would be nice to see them come up with something new and interesting that's just as good as Civil War for these other stories. There have been a few new pictures released from the Avengers movie, including this one with the Incredible Hulk, which I think looks awesome. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, I think the Hulk looks great in this film. I'm very impressed with the way they've done it, and I'm excited to see how he looks in the movie, because if he does look as good as he's looked in the pictures and in the trailers, then it's going to be very impressive. There's also this picture here of Captain America that's been released, which helps to transition into my next topic, Captain America 2. The release date has been set for April 4th, 2014, and the directors they're apparently looking at right now are George Nolfi, the writer-director of The Adjustment Bureau, F. Gary Gray, best known for directing The Italian Job, and Anthony and Joseph Russo, the producers and directors of the two comedy series Community and Happy Ending. So they're kind of an outside-of-the-box choice, but honestly, I don't really know anything about any of these people as directors, so I can't really say much there, but I do think that Captain America 2 is going to be a challenge, because with the first one you had it all kind of laid out for you. We've got Steve Rogers in World War II, and we've got to bring him to the point where he's set up to be in the Avengers. But with this one, there's a lot more that's hard to kind of exactly choose and figure out what should we do here. Because Captain America in the modern world, I think the Ed Brubaker comics, that's like the only Captain America that I read, and the tone of that is more kind of grounded and serious. It feels kind of like a Jason Bourne film to me. A superhero-ish version of that, but it's got kind of that more serious tone to it, whereas the first Captain America film had, I don't want to say a very light tone, but it was very stylistic, and it wasn't as serious or grounded as the Captain America comics that I've read in terms of the tone of it. So I think it's going to be difficult to figure out how Captain America fits in the modern world, if it's going to be like a Mission Impossible kind of thing or what. But it's exciting to see and wonder and speculate about. The one thing that I do hope they nail, especially in the Avengers, since that's the next thing we'll see him in, is the fighting style, because I don't think that the solo film managed to do that very well. I want to be wowed when I see him. Kind of like I was when I watched the trailer for Total Recall. The fight scene in that trailer was kind of what I would want Steve Rogers' fighting style to be like going forward in the next few movies, because in that fight scene with Colin Farrell, the way that he moves, it's just so fast, yet it's precise, it's very skillful, it looks very impressive to watch. So that's kind of what I think that Captain America's fighting style should be like, something that is so good, it's like unnatural, borderline impossible to imagine somebody being able to do that. And I don't think the Solo film managed to really capture the speed and agility of the character, more so just the strength. So that's definitely something I want to see moving forward. But that's really all I've got for today. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, subscribe, and tune in next time.